Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Hassan, Menti, and Willem. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Friday evening, where we have just entered the pinnacle month of the transfer window that Richard Hughes has said should be the busy month for us. He did predict a quiet July, which it was until all of the news came out of what happened in July, and nobody knew a thing about what happened, which is kind of it's their MO. It's Michael Edwards' MO, and he seems to have taught Richard Hughes very, very well in the ways of the force, shall we call it. But over the past couple of days, we've had an awful lot of news. We've had preseason games. We've had stuff come out now very recently from Miguel Delaney saying that we're going to be signing 4 different players, one from either wing and a CDM along with a centre-back. We've had news that Endo might be leaving. We've had news that Gomez might be leaving. We've had news that Sepp van den Berg might be leaving. We then have obviously other players coming back in that we think that there's links to Anthony Gordon, that there was a deal on the table for Anthony Gordon, that we rejected bids for Sepp and we rejected bids for Endo. God knows what's happening because everything is being reported 3 weeks away from when it actually happens. So it's funny to see. But without further ado, we'll get into everything. And essentially, the first topic that we're going to get into is just on the relation to the players that we may be targeting. Now, Miguel Delaney, who's very, very reliable, has said that we'll be targeting 4 different players. One that will essentially both wingers, possibly 2 of those. So essentially one winger that'll play left, one winger that'll play right. A wide forward essentially is what we'd be looking for. Then we'd also be looking for a midfielder, possibly a more ball-playing center defensive midfielder than the destroyer that we'd be used to usually, just based on build-up that we've seen and just on reports and everything like that. And then finally also a centre-back as well, which to some might be puzzling considering the number that we have there at the moment. But with the fact that Ibrahima Konate loves an injury and that we might end up losing one of, if not both, if we were very unlucky, of Sepp van den Berg and Joe Gomez, with the reports that came out as well. Basically, we're going to have a quick look into who would it be. Will we go back in for Anthony Gordon? Will we go back for Kudus maybe? Who do we go? So what we've done is we've gone around the panel just before we started and we've gotten the names of everybody. And what we're going to do is we're going to run down through them and see them against our current player in that position and what their profile would match like. We're going to use Data MB for that. And then we're just going to take a look at them, see where they rank, see how they go, and we'll judge it off that and see how much ball knowledge is on this panel. And I feel that it'll be severely lacking on my part anyway. But sure, look, it is what it is. But we'll get into it. So the first one that we're going to look into is Hassan's options. Now, Hassan has selected Johan Bakayoko for a winger or a wide attacker. He's then also selected Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace, their CDM. I don't see that happening. I know it's a dream option, but I think they'll ask for an arm and a leg for him. And then also the centre-back option you've selected is Inacio, who plays as the left-sided centre-back, left footer for Sporting Lisbon. So what we do is I'm going to pull up Data MB and we're going to get out the radar and we're going to have a quick look here. So Hassan, who do you want to start with to make your case? We go Bakayoko first of all, and then what we'll do is I'll duplicate this here now. And then we'll duplicate it again. And we'll do all 3 of them there. So we have Bakayoko there, and we're going to get, so he's a right winger, so we're going to put Salah next to him. And then the other one then you said was the CDM was Wharton, and currently as it stands at the moment, our CDM is Endo. And then we're going to get your Inacio, who is centre back. So Inacio, Gonzalo Inacio, and then the centre back we'll be pairing him against, I suppose, probably the best one, because there's no point in pairing him with Verge, because we all know that that's not a good way to think. So we'll say Konate just purely for argumentative sake, and we'll put Kwanzaa in there as well, just to see how they match up on that. So we will now jump into this and get the stats out for this. So hopefully everybody's having a good day. Right, hold on one second. Present, share screen, and we're going to go with Data MB Pro. Here we go. Perfect. So the first options that we have here, and I'm going to get rid of the brand as well because nobody can see anything that way. So looking at this, I'm going to zoom in here now so we can kind of see everything a little bit better. So in blue, we have Gonzalo Inacio. So this is this player here. And then in red, we have Ibrahima Konate, who is this player here. And then sort of in this greeny sort of color here, we have Kwanzaa. Now, to explain what sort of all of these statistics means, your duel percentages are your duels won over your duels contested. Similarly with aerial, your carrying is your progressive carrying, your dribbling ability, how far you carry the ball forward, your passes, very plain and simple. Forward passes, very plain and simple. Progressive passes, these would be how many progressive balls you would play forward. The defensive actions one is a funny one. So what this essentially means is it's everything encapsulated into the one statistic. So tackles, possession adjusted interceptions, possession adjusted slide tackles, that kind of thing. And you'll notice that teams that tend to have more possession of the ball will be defending less, meaning their defensive actions is lower. It also depends on the position as well, as Inacio kind of plays a left back and a back three. So that's why his aerial and his duel percentage might not be that. He's more of the progressor of the player, and it might be better suited for ourselves. But Hassan, give me your reasoning as to why you want Inacio to come in, and who do you think he replaces essentially?
Yeah, for me, I think we identified that I think we needed a center back who can play at the left side and can also play as a left back if there is a opportunity or there's an injury. So my dream target, to be honest, was Calafori because he was really good in the Euros, but when he went, so I think he makes sense. He's a young center back who's come through the academy of, and he's highly rated there. He has already international caps as well, and he has scored goals. So I think to look at that, so many young options like Lenny Yoro and so I think that was my thinking behind him. If we were thinking about a center back.
Cool. Menti and Willem, I'm going to open the floor up to you for either agreement or scrutiny on what you think. Menti, I'll go to you first. What would you think of Inacio as the centre back to come in this summer if he was to come in? I myself would be personally over the moon, but I've been singing his praises for over 12 months now at this point. So give me a couple of your thoughts on it, and then Willem, I'll come on to you, and then we'll go through them that way, and we'll do everybody the same way then.
Like you said, he is a very progressive center back. And for me, I feel like if we really wanted him, we would have got him before the release calls went to 16 million. I just don't feel like he's a player that justifies that price tag. But for me, I just don't see that move happening. Like if you look at Kwanzaa and everything, I don't know. I just don't see it.
No, fair. I see. I agree with you on the release clause, but then it was sort of reported like a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember who reported it, that they were willing to take closer to the original release clause, which kind of reignited my thought process on it. If it was still the 60, I completely agree with you, where it's like, what's the point in waiting a year and paying another 20 million? That's not necessarily how we'd operate. But if they brought it down, I could see it happening. But it's dead. It seems to be dead in the water at the moment. Nobody seems to be talking about it. But who knows, as we've seen so far this window. Willem, you've been on record as saying a couple of times that you're not overtly impressed with Inacio anytime that you've watched him. Would you have been in agreement with Hassan and who you would have selected for that centre back role?
No, I wouldn't have picked Inacio, to be fair. I still stick to the same of it. I'm not very impressed from what I've seen from Inacio, to be fair. I think he's a good centre back, but I still don't think he is the centre back that we necessarily need or would fit for it, really. And it's as simple as that for me, right? Because like the thing is with stats are very nice and stuff, but I just tend to base off what I watch from it, and the couple of games I've watched from him, I have just not been very impressed. So that's basically it for me, to be fair.
No, it's fair. Like, I've watched him myself and I've been very impressed with him. He kind of plays as a left back. That's the progressive guy, kind of like an Andy Robertson role, which is why you would see the numbers that are there depict a lesser defender, so to speak, but that's not necessarily his job. The defender beside him is actually Diamande, who will cost twice as much as Inacio will. But that's essentially it. Now, Hassan, we're going to move on to your midfielder option where you picked Adam Wharton. So I'm going to share this tab now instead, and we're going to have Adam Wharton compared to Endo that we currently have at the moment. Now, it has kind of been reported that Endo necessarily won't be the mold of a CDM that we'd be going for, to be more of a ball player, progressor. But when you look at the numbers that are here, Endo technically isn't the worst. He's great in his duels, he's great in his defensive actions, he's really good at getting the ball back and tackling, intercepting, getting in the way and being disruptive in that sort of a sweeper role. And he's also very good at progressing the ball forward with his forward passes and how much he does them. That's prototypically the mold that you'd want for your CDM. If you went and got somebody and put somebody like Rodri in there, you'll see what I mean if I put him in here. So prototypically, Rodri is very similar in his progressive passes, key passes. This would be the mold I feel Slot will want. But that's just me spitballing on that. But Hassan, give me a reasoning behind Adam Wharton and why you think it should be him.
Yeah, for me, I think this player is on upward trajectory. He was really good for Blackburn, and when he came into Premier League, he transitioned really well, and he was not in the starting 11 until they when he came in, they had a really good end to the season. And I think the stats are not that great for him, because the type of team he plays for, if he would play for someone better than Crystal Palace, I think his numbers will be better than that. And I think for me, the another reason is that I don't want someone who comes in and uh, makes the progress of Stefan Bajcetic hinder. So I think if he comes in, they both can complement each other and improve each other's game.
Yeah, I see. I just don't think Adam Wharton is going to be signed purely because they're looking at selling Gahey. They've already lost Elise. I just can't see them then letting him go for any sort of a at least a reasonable fee. Menti, Willem, whoever wants to jump in there first, thoughts or agreements or disagreements in relation to Hassan's pick at the CDM role to come in and play in that role alongside another double pivot that's there?
I don't think they're going to sell him, just because I feel like they'll wait one more year, just because his value next window, not January, but the window after, it's going to be crazy. I feel like a lot of teams will be bidding then. At that point, you'll have like another season that you could use. Based on the players they're selling, I doubt they're going to sell him this year.
Yeah. And Sentinel here mentions, Willem, that, sorry, I'm covering up your face there, that it looks to, that the type of player that we would want is somebody like a Coop Miners. Unfortunately, he's away to Juventus, more or less. He's basically in Turin. But do you think it's something a similar profile to that? Like when I pulled up Rodri, maybe even an Ederson. Like I'll pull up Ederson now. We'll have a look at him and see.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally for what Slot would be searching in a six, I think probably Zubimendi is the best option you can get for it right now. I mean, that would be, but to be honest, I think there's only two realistic picks anyway, which would be Wharton or Zubimendi. Wharton, pure on the fact that he's still so young that you can work on a lot of these factors with him.
Yeah.
But then again, the one thing I would say with Wharton is you do already have a player in a similar age bracket and a similar position, which is Bajcetic. Do you want to have two of that same age range as well, as long with the trajectory that you have to kind of pull through with it? Or would you rather then go for Zubimendi, who's 25, who's ready to go for the next 5 years, maybe 6, maybe 7? I don't think this style will be as demanding as we've had with Klopp style as well.
Yeah.
I think he would also definitely be cheaper with the release clause he had. So I think also in that sense, I think Zubimendi is probably the only other option that I would say can make an argument for it. Colt Miners is not an option because he's going to Juve. And, I mean, B personally as well, I'd really rather not. So I think that, again, just to simplify with it, and Endo, like, I think at the end of the day, the plan is probably for Endo that he will get sold this summer, because we've already heard the rumblings of that. They've been like, they haven't shut down offers. They've been listening to the offers and more rejecting them based on the value that's being offered, more necessarily than saying Endo's untouchable and we're not letting him go. And I think you can see it, like, again, and it's very easy for me to say, someone who has not been able to watch back any of the friendlies yet due to the times they were on and not being able to record them. But like, I think so far as well, usage in the friendlies, you can kind of see that Endo's not going to be a preferred selection probably for Slot throughout the season coming through. So I think as well, you might have to look at it as a direct Endo replacement.
Yeah. I'd like to keep him as a squad option myself, because down the line, it's always nice to have good experience there that can come in and sort of calm a game down. We have members here that's definitely Carter's burner, saying Varela. And then you have others just mentioning Gomez from Wolves, which is somebody we look at in a moment. But Hassan, we're going to move on to your winger options, which is Johan Bakayoko, one of my options as well. So I'm going to share this tab now and we'll have a quick look at it here. And now, obviously, we need to take this with a pinch of salt, because on paper here, this looks like he's absolutely worlds and miles ahead of Mohamed Salah, being 10 years his junior. But you also then need to take in the Eredivisie tax as well, that he's playing in a league that's akin to the Championship. And somebody that we didn't want earlier in the window, and thankfully has gone to West Ham, is Somerville, who also projects somewhat similar numbers to this. But Hassan, again, we'll go back to you and just give us your reasoning behind why it should be Johan Bakayoko. He seems very specific to the right-hand side. Do you not think we need somebody that will be more able to play both wings, or are you are you saying the left wing is fine and we just need to focus on the right wing? Hassan, if you're there. We can't hear you, buddy, unfortunately. It's not just me that can't hear him, is it? Can anybody else hear him?
No,
I can't hear him either.
He's gone, unfortunately. We'll see if he comes back. But I'll throw it over to you guys first. If he comes back, he comes back. I think about this time he loses Wi-Fi and everything like that anyway. But we'll get his reasoning behind it in a moment. But, Menti, I'll come to you first and say yes, no, why not? What do you think about Bakayoko? And then, obviously, we'll jump onto yourself, Willem. And if Hassan is able to come back, we'll get onto his reasoning behind it as well.
I think Bakayoko is I'm not trying to be mean, at best a squad player for Liverpool. Like when I was watching the finals for Belgium, not the finals, the Euros, you could see he's not the player you see on these stats just because he's going against good competition. But when he can't go past a defender, he is literally an average player. If he can't use his pace to get past someone, he can't take on those one-on-one dribbles like when Salah used to do it when he had his speed. I just don't think he's good enough for Liverpool. But hey, that's just my opinion.
Fair enough. Willem, would you be of a similar opinion, or would you actually be like Bakayoko to come and land at the team?
No, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Not for me. I've also seen him play a couple of times in the Eredivisie this past season, and I think overall one thing that gets overlooked is that PSV's team in general in the Eredivisie was a very good team, and it's more than just him playing that part in there what made them so successful. And often quite as well, what a good measuring stick is for the players from those lower leagues is how they do often in those 5-6 group stage games of the Champions League and stuff and everything.
Yeah.
And I think he had one good half against Arsenal where they still didn't score. They still really didn't do anything attacking wise. And for the rest, I was very unimpressed by him as well, to be honest. And the Euros, again, did not. Also, and now I'm sounding harsh as unimpressed as I don't rate him at all, but it's more I still think he's way too raw of a player and of a talent to get him into Kawhi. I think there's better options out there.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Now, Hassan, we've heard the reasons why not. Give us the reasons why it should be Bakayoko. As I mentioned, is it because you want just to specifically focus on the right wing? You don't think the left wing needs touching? Or what do you think we should do here?
Yeah, for me, I think we have many options on the left. Gapco now can play on the left. Jota can play there. Darwin can play there. Unless Diaz is not going, he's the natural winger over there. So I think, now we see Harvey playing at number 10. So I think there's a need for winger on the right to complement Salah if there's an injury or he goes somewhere. So I think that was my reasoning, and for me, I think he's a young player who can be improved, and he was linked, I think, maybe and from Eredivisie slot nose players, and I think he won't be that expensive. So these were my reasoning, because other players which were coming on my mind, I think they are so very expensive, and we don't. For me personally, I don't think we should spend so much on a attacker right now.
Fair enough. It all necessarily depends, I guess, in the context. I'll give you this sort of a curveball, Hassan. If you were able to get Anthony Gordon, who's somebody that we'll touch on in a little bit as well. So the deal that was announced for him and Gomez. So we would have sold Gomez for 45 million and bought Anthony Gordon for 75 million, a net of 30 million pounds. that would have been a similar price to what we would have gotten Bakayoko for. Considering the depth that we currently have at centre back, would you have taken that deal to get Anthony Gordon over Bakayoko, or would you still have taken Bakayoko on that deal?
Yeah, it's at this time it's difficult to answer. We don't know how and Gordon will play for us. He had a really good season for Newcastle, but for him to come in and play with world class players, we'll see. And for me to lose at this juncture, Gomez and probably Sep. So it will be really difficult for us to cope, because Gomez is, I think, the longest serving player still at the club, who can play at any given position at any time. So I think we should not take such high risk right now.
Fair. I think it does stand to reason that you obviously need to have certain players that have been through it all and can not right a ship, but be steady in a new transition. You don't want too much change, and I can see what you mean by that. Just looking at a couple of the comments that we just have here, we have anyone but Gordon. We have then obviously, as long as we don't get Gordon for £70 million, I'm good. Where am I looking for here? Should offer Jones and cash for Eze. God, that'd go down well if Carter was here. And then sell Diaz, go for Bakayoko and rotate with Salah. Problem solved up front. I don't see a problem with that myself, to be perfectly honest with you. Just to have a quick look here. We've seen Varela. We've then obviously João Gomez from Wolves. Craig here mentioned that if you don't see anything beginning to heat up, still no signings. Yes, because that's Richard Hughes said there's going to be no signings till August. We're currently in August. There'll be signings in the next 10 days, so to speak, as if reports are to be believed. Just looking at the rest here. Gordon is the main priority, saying Russell that Richard Hughes loves him. And Edwards isn't involved at all. It's Richard Hughes. If you think Michael Edwards isn't involved in these transfer negotiations and talks, I don't know what to tell you, because he 100% is. He's a control freak, and he's not going to let anything go over his head. He'll be definitely involved on some level. He won't be just leaving Richard Hughes to his own devices. It's a collaborative effort between the two of them, 100%. But we are going to move on now to the next ones. We Menti, who's mentioned his three. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to get everything up and running again. So we're going to go back to brands. I'm going to go 4-person overlay, and we're going to get everything up again. So I need to put in these people. So I have Menti with, okay. So we have center backs. I need to get rid of there, and we need to go Kiba. And then we also need to go get rid of Adam Morton, and we need to go Zubimendi from Real Sociedad. That is a horrible color for him. So Zubimendi, we'll see if it gets a different color again. That's better. It's much easier to see. Anybody that has a stigmatism wouldn't be able to see that at all. And then you mentioned Kudus for his year at West Ham. Perfect. So, Menti, we are now going to have a look at your picks for this. If you bear with me 1 second, we're going to go share screen. We're going to go down and be pro, and we're going to start where we left off last time at the wingers. So here we obviously have Mohamed Salah in the red, and then in the greenish third color we have Mohamed Kudus. Now, I can understand your reasoning behind this, because this guy kind of plays both positions, and I'm going to get rid of that brand again because that's really annoying. But Menti, tell me why we should go for him. His release clause is very high. It's not going to be active again until next summer, unless you think we can get him for less if West Ham need to gather some funds, considering Paqueta might not be able to get them any funds. I understand your reasoning behind it. Obviously, he can play both wings. He plays a cam role as well. That's initially his specific role, but I'll let you have the floor. To sell Kudus to us.
For me, whenever I look at certain players that come from like the Dutch league, before they come to Liverpool, we have to like literally see progression. Like Bakayoko, the only difference between him and Kudus is Kudus actually made that jump to the Premier League, and instantly he hit the ground running. He's a player that tracks back. He's pretty good at everything he does. He can play both wings. He's always like a pass first, but when you need him to score, he's pretty lethal. I know a lot of people watch them themselves. He's essentially like a younger version of Salah. We really don't know what his ceiling is, but I'd rather try to get him as soon. Throw Endo in there to West Ham. I heard there's a little bit interest. Put that price down. Like if they're doing something similar to Gomez, if we could do that with Kudus, I feel like they'll rather address the right wing first, just because. I mean, why not just start Gakpo at left wing if we sell Diaz? Just because, as we've seen, he's not a false nine. I don't know why Pep Linders couldn't figure that out, but we have good left wingers. But yeah, Kudus, his upside is it's actually insane. So I hope we get him. And knowing like Richard Hughes and Edwards, he's his type of player. So hopefully they can make that happen. But I feel like he's already proven himself in the Prem. And we got one of his coaches on our team, so they already know how his work ethic and everything. It could be a move that can be possible, but we'll see if it happens.
Yeah, that's right. And just Russell, just to mention, there was basically a deal done, and medicals were booked. They had accepted 75 million for Gordon, and that they were going to purchase Joe Gomez for 45 million. So it would have been a net of 30 million pounds for Gordon. He won't cost that much now he probably will, considering they don't need any PSR restrictions around money back. But some clubs still think that they do, other clubs don't. They might need them for next summer. Who knows? We don't know that because that's kind of privy information that we're not don't have available to us at the moment. But Willem, I'll throw it over to yourself. Yes, no, agree, disagree. Why not on Mohamed Kudus to come in as the right winger?
I agree. Like a spoiler alert, but he's one of the names that I put down as well. But I gladfully I put two per position, so at least we got one left now that we haven't revealed yet. No, but I tend to agree. I think as well right now what helps with it, and the thing is, I've put down my right wing options more in the sense as well that I think, because as well we're not really hearing anything about his contract. I think most likely Salah will depart next year. Not that I like it, but
yeah,
at the moment with how little we're hearing from the contract negotiations and side and everything, I think it's a realistic option as well to kind of really think ahead of that. And I do from the option in the sense of he's 23, 24, now has a year of Premier League experience on him, was playing Champions League with Ajax, has played for Ghana, African Cup of Nations, has done really well. And he's done really well everywhere he's played, like also for Ghana when he plays for the national team. He also really plays very well as well. So I think for me personally, he would be the option to go into. He would be very good in flowing between the attack as well, because he can even start out as a right winger, but you can find him in the middle of the pitch or even on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's an extremely attractive option for me. And from what I read as well, someone reported today, I think, that West Ham are also interested in Joe Gomez. So who knows? Maybe in that kind of sense, could it be that we can use Joe Gomez in that form of leverage? Because the thing with Gordon as well, his deal runs out in 2026, I think it is.
He's got 2 years left.
If Newcastle want to offer him a new deal now, if he doesn't sign it anyways, and they still want to keep on to him this year, then next year we've got a player who's desperate to join us and has 1 year left on his deal, and we'll be getting him for cheaper anyways if we end up getting him. So it's also kind of in that sense that maybe we're thinking maybe our priority is to get Gordon, but we know probably that we can get Gordon anyways in a year's time. So that could also be something that plays into it, and then Kudus could maybe become a real option.
Yeah, it could realistically, because to be honest with you, if you have the option of 45 million for Joe Gomez and then 75 million for Anthony Gordon, you have a net of 30 million there, and you get Gordon. Or if you were also then offered another 5 to 10 million and you could get Kudus, I'm going with Kudus myself every time, purely because of the flexibility to play a 10, left wing, right wing. He plays and can play technically a false 9 if that's what's needed as well. He can play all across the front 3, 4, so to speak. Hassan, yes, no, same question to yourself. Tell me why or why not in relation to Kudus. So would you agree with this pick, or do you disagree with the pick?
No, I agree. I love this player. He's really good. As Willem said, that he had really good season with Ajax, and he came in and played really well for West Ham. He made the transition to Premier League really well. I think with West Ham, I think the deals are really difficult. I was thinking which was the last player we signed from them. I think it was Mascherano. I don't know, but I think they are very difficult to deal with their owners. This is the only thing I think which bothers me about West Ham, that they are very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, they are. And just looking at Kudus' numbers from last season, just for anybody that was interested at all, 18 goals, 7 assists in just over 3,700 minutes. Not bad numbers, to be perfectly honest with you. Clearly has the end product. Is great with the ball at his feet. I could see it being something that we could go for. If there's a deal that could be made there, I don't see us paying an £85 million release clause, but you never know. Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes might want to just drop their balls on the table and say, put a statement out there. But as Willem does love to say every time that we like to get imaginative at all, know your owners. We will now move on to the midfield options that has been selected here. So we're going to share this tab instead. So we've obviously mentioned in previous as well, Martin Zubimendi. We can see here in comparison to Endo, he seems to be much better. He seems to be a similar sort of duel winner. He doesn't defend as much, better carrier, similar in forward passing and passing percentage, key passing similarly as well, progressive passing. If you watch him yourself, it is, I think after the Euros, I think his release clause is going to go up. I don't think they're going to accept the release clause myself. It's about €60 million. But Menti, this was your pick. Tell us why not? And I see people already saying that he's not leaving Spain, so maybe that might be a bit of a crux in that.
I mean, for me, it's just like they played a 4-3-3, so it's a little bit different. So if he does play in the slot style, he'll definitely have those numbers will go up a little bit. But it seems like it's like a new generation in Spain, and like the other guy that played with him, he's about to make that move to the Premier League. I feel like that Spain team is so stacked, he has to make a jump to a big team, just because he can't keep playing at Real Sociedad if he's trying to make an impact for the national team. But yeah, you guys saw that Euros game. I knew of him, but after watching that, it was actually kind of insane. He was literally just another Rodri, and they ended up winning, so it was a great substitution. But I feel like it'd be perfect for his system.
Yeah, fair enough. I can see it, but at the same time, I'm kind of a little bit hesitant about just his ball playing ability a little bit. And his defending. It's all well and good. He looks to me more of an 8 than a 6, and even the 6 that we'd kind of be after. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I could be that. Willem, you've obviously watched him an awful lot. Obviously, being from Spain yourself, I'd imagine you've seen him more than we have anyway, and known of him. And would you be of a similar opinion to Menti on Zubimendi? Would you agree with that take? I think he was your pick as well. Actually, was he? He was indeed. Him or Wharton were your picks for
him
the
and
CDM.
Wharton were both of mine. No, but I think as well. I think he got a. I think he's a player who. He doesn't get asked at Real Sociedad to do the defensive work because he has Marino next to him. And Marino doesn't have the ball traits that Zubimendi has. However, Zubimendi is someone who can do that because, as well, it's not normally predominantly his role. But as you saw in the second half of the Euros final, he has to take Rodri's role in CDM and cover for it. And he didn't have an issue at all. He completely covered the whole thing. And I've seen him do it at Sociedad a couple of times as well, where it's like maybe it's not something that is predominantly being asked of him where he's playing, but it's something he can definitely do. And I think as well for again, the thing I do agree with, Spanish players leaving Spain is quite a difficult one. There aren't a lot of them that do it. Because even now, if you look back at it, apart from even looking at great players that we had in the Premier League, the last one's kind of like David Silva. And then for the rest after that, we had Thiago, but Thiago didn't play for about 60% of our games, so we can't really count it. And then, so it's always a very select few who normally have already decided to kind of go on an adventure outside of Spain before that. And often with the rest of them, they do kind of either wait out for their opportunity, and especially with the Basque players, it's a different kind of pride. that they also play with. So they are very loyal to their clubs, both at Real Sociedad and with Athletic Bilbao. Real Sociedad a little less because they don't have the strict Basque rule compared to Athletic Bilbao. But it's still, I think he would be a player who would fit perfectly into what Slot wants. The numbers will probably not tell you that he is necessarily that. So I kind of, and knowing that normally our sport director works with data-driven and numbers, it might not be the player that pops up onto it, but I have full faith that he would be a perfect fit for us.
I can see it as well myself. It's the worry about the defensive side of things. Can he do it? Will he do it? And it's one thing to say, like as you said, he has the defender beside him in Moreno himself. If you throw him and McAllister beside each other, it's very much a similar player beside a similar player, if that makes sense. So it would be that'd be just a concern on my side.
Because I 100% want to get what you mean, because it is true that in the ways of what he can bring in a progressive way, in a carryover way, he's very similar to McAllister. However, I have also, from the games I have seen him where he has had to stand in a more defensive position, he's been able to do absolutely fine. And in my opinion, he's done it better than when we've seen Mac in that position. And again, I'd rather see McAllister further forward, and Zubimendi is a player who is normally also used to still being a bit further back, even with Marino playing next to him. So I think also in that sense, I do think he would still be good. But I'm not going to be pissed off if we get Wharton. So I'm it's completely fine as long as we get one. I think that's the one now. But at this point where I'm at, like a DM is the only non-negotiable for me. Like if we go throughout this summer without signing a DM, I will not be a happy bunny. I would just leave it at that.
Yeah, no. I get that. Hassan, we'll throw it over to you to get the thoughts on this, and then we'll jump over to the centre back options then and have a look at them that way. So yes, no on Zubimendi. Were you impressed with him at the Euros? How did you find him at the Euros?
Yeah, to be honest, I have not seen him play too much. There was the only one game in Euros in which I saw him, so I will not say how he plays and anything. But for me, there's just one point. I think Mikel Merino is coming to Arsenal. There's a strong links with him, and Sociedad has qualified for Champions League. I don't think they will lose two of their starting midfielders. So this is the point I wanted to raise.
Yeah.
That is true, but he has a release clause. That's the thing. A release clause isn't something that a club can accept. It can just be broken. So that is one factor that does play into it.
I mean,
we broke like Suarez.
Suarez had a release clause too. Just going to point that out there, and it was met, and nothing happened.
but that's the one with the Spanish law. If the release clause gets paid up front, immediately it gets done. So as in that has to be accepted, and that's I don't know. Like as in that's the one where per country it works differently. But I know that with the release clause in Spain, once it's paid up front, that's it. The club can't do anything about it.
Well, then again, it's down to the player, and if the player wants to leave Spain too, as you've mentioned, Willem, like between Real Sociedad and Athletic Bilbao, there's a lot of Basque players there that really just don't want to bother leaving. They're quite happy. The families are happy. The friends are happy. It just is what it is like. Right, we are now going to move on to Menti's selection for centre back, and he has selected Castello Luqueba, who I would have scouted this time last year for him to come to us, only for him to go to RB Leipzig. Now, the last guy that we got from RB Leipzig was pretty well decent, considering he's also noted up here. Unfortunately, he does love a knock in the middle of a season, so we'll have a quick look at that as well. Menti, sell him to us. Why not? Why should we go for him? Do you think it's even feasible, but considering he's only been there a year?
Yeah, I feel like that's a player, if like Edwards is around the year before he made that jump to Leipzig, he would have probably bought him. But when you watch him play, he's literally like crazy explosive, super technical. He's literally just like a left-footed Konate, but like knock on wood, he doesn't get injured that much. But he's very good. You could see his progression. He did it through the Lyon youth system as well as the France U17, 19, 23, and now he's on the Olympic team. Very young. His upside's very high. But yeah, I really wanted him before we went to Leipzig because I know they're gonna try to like sell him for like 80 million. So we'll see. Because Edwards' last signing was Konate, if I'm not mistaken. So if he wanted Konate, it's literally just a left-footed Konate. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and Bob, I don't know how you think Zubimendi will be a Barca player, considering they can't even afford to register their own players at the moment, and that the way that they're trying to get that deal done is quite literally Football Manager-esque. That they'll pay them 10 million a year for the next 5 years, starting from next year, and if they win La Liga by 2030 twice, they'll give them another 10 million, and if they win the Champions League twice by 2030, they'll give them another 10 million. And Red Bull didn't even answer the phone for that deal. So I don't see him going to Barca. I don't see anybody going to Barca this summer. Even Luis Diaz, not as much as we want to get rid of him. We don't want to get rid of him. If he can provide us with funds that will support a turning of guard, so to speak, we won't say no to it, but it just is what it is. Willem, Castello Luqueba was somebody that we looked at previously. I know we looked at him last summer. Do you think it's still Barcelona? They've yet to register their own manager. I'm still nearly sure at this point. Like it could be Barcelona all at once. They're broke. They're selling Messi's underwear at this point. Willem, you can chime in on that Barcelona point as well. I know you said that they'll find a way and they're nearly back to the 1-to-1, but I don't think they are, considering they're still not able to register players. They're probably close to it.
Maybe not this summer, but I mean, like, give it a year or two, they will probably be back to being able to make 2 signings about a summer. Which, hey, with their youth academy and with their stuff, they can do stuff with that. So,
yeah.
You know, like I'll give them credit where it is. I don't think it'll be this summer, but I think starting next summer or the summer after, they'll be able to do some things. And as they have shown, they do obviously have some form of 50 to 60 million euros to offer. So I do think it is slowly getting back there. It just kind of depends on what they are able to do in the future.
Yeah.
And on the centre back with Luqueba, I think the profile of Luqueba would be nearly perfect for us as well. And the fact with the left-hand side, I don't think he's a player necessarily who has a great ability to play left back, but I might be wrong. But I don't really remember.
Games there. He's only played like 2 games there, so it's he plays in a back 4 on the left-hand side. So that he's Van Dijk essentially is his position.
No, yeah, but then, so as in, I think the profile of the type of centre back that we would like, I think in that profile he would be perfect. But I do, and he was also one I saw. I put him and a cheaper option for the centre back as well. But that's also purely for the centre back. I would actually more go for my other cheaper option that we'll get to in a bit. Because I think he's better in that versatility of also playing left back, where I have quite seen him a bit. And I don't think he would have that. And I think that's the profile we kind of need defensively right now, is essentially a centre back who can play left back and actually play it well.
Yeah, no, I completely get what you mean in that, and I don't disagree with you. I think he'd be great as a centre back role, but unless we lose 2, I don't see us going anywhere near a centre back that can come in and make an immediate impact. It might be depth or a project, similarly to the Euro role. But Hassan, same question to yourself. Yes, no on Luqueba. Why not? What do you think we should move from? Do you think it's a possibility that we could go for him with him only being at RB Leipzig a year? What do you think could be the way that we go forward with this?
I think he has the profile, the type of players we look at. I think, as everybody is saying, all these things will depend upon outgoings. I think we have stalled till now because of the players we still have. Ned Phillips is still hanging around, so I think when the players will move on, I think then we'll see which player we go and buy. But if we look at him, the numbers you put up, the aerial thing is just a bit worrying. Unless he is really good.
So with the aerial stuff, again, he's kind of, what's the best way to describe it? It's similar to Inacio. It's not that he's not great in the air. He is. If you look at aerials contested as opposed to aerials won, he wins more than he loses, which is what you'd realistically want. And the aerials number is a little bit skewed for me, because as long as you're not getting beaten in the air constantly and contesting it in the air, and it's like a breaking ball, then you're fine, because you can clean. You have players around you that will be able to clean it up. Which was one thing that I mentioned about João Neves coming from Benfica, for the CDM role. He's smaller than most. He's about 5'10". He's a stocky lad, but if he can challenge in the air and break the ball down, there'll be players around him to be able to sweep it up. So that would be my understanding of that aerial number. I've not seen anything necessarily egregiously bad. It all depends on what he's asked to do as well. He might be that centre back that runs up the pitch and then tracks back. That's why you see with the dual percentage very high and the carrying very high as well. That's more so the reason for that too. But again, it's still a concern nonetheless. Now, we are going to move on to Willem's options. And Willem kind of has mirrored me in a little way, but I have different CDMs. But we'll move on to Willem's options. And we're going to have a quick look here at the wingers, first of all. So, seen names mentioned a couple of times in chat. We've obviously with Brian and Mbeumo, and then we obviously have Anthony Gordon as well. We've seen that mentioned in chat a good few times too. Willem, give me your rundown as to why you think either one of these players, or even both of these players, play left wing and right wing, considering we're picking one or the other, would be the best options for us.
Wait, so which ones did you combine? Did you combine Gordon and Mbeumo now? Or...
So Gordon is the darker orange, and Mbeumo is the yellow, and then Salah's the red, sort of laid on the background.
Is it? Okay, no, sorry, man. My eyes are going to shit lately.
Hold on, I'll flip Gordon and see if I can get him in a different color, like a blue.
No, it's fine, mate. I don't care about the graph. It's fine.
There you go.
It's all right. No, the color doesn't make a difference. I can't see it anywhere. I need to get them tested. But like, no, I think, look, there's an argument to be made anyway that we could go for both this summer, because I think Mbeumo as well, for the price that probably Brentford would eventually be able to let him go. I think he would be the best option probably out there as well. If we're talking purely on price, what he can provide and what kind of a forward he is, he's also very direct. I personally think he would be the best. And again, Kudus is all fantasy play, but he has an 85 million release clause, and West Ham will be going near there. So, like, if we're just going seriously for a second, knowing what normally our financial kind of budget is, and even with the outgoings coming in, I see it more likely that either the money will be spent on Gordon and that we'll get Mbeumo, or Gordon doesn't come this year and we get Kudus. So it's one of them two. But I think Mbeumo would be a perfect fit, to be honest. If you just see as well what he did last year at Brentford, just carrying them on their team, and how much Brentford dropped off as well once he went out of it. And the good thing is as well, injury record-wise, that big injury he had last year at Brentford is literally the only injury he's ever had. And Mbeumo was better than Gordon. Yeah, there's an argument to be made there. I'm not even disagreeing. But I think both are really good signs. I think Mbeumo would be definitely, if it's not Kudus, I want Mbeumo. That it's actually kind of that simple. Those are the two for me.
It's a very Michael Edwards type signing that it's a little bit under the radar, so to speak. But Mbeumo, as you mentioned very rightly, carried Brentford that first half of the season, and only for him, I think they would have ended up in a relegation battle. Menti, I'll come to you first on this one, and then Hassan, I'll jump to you, because we've already gone over Willem's sort of CDMs. He had Zubamendi and Wharton as well, but we have a different centre back that we'll go over too, so we'll jump through them. And then we'll talk, and we've already talked about everybody that I have as well, other than my CDMs, which are a little bit different, but we'll get into them too. So, Menti, Gordon, Brian Mbeumo, yes, no. Do you agree with Centeno here saying spend the money on the defense, just not get Gordon? Or do you feel that somebody in a profile such as Brian Mbeumo would allow a player behind him like Ben Doak to gain willful minutes maybe on a loan and then grow into the squad a little bit more, because he's quite raw?
Yeah, for me, I'm at a point where it's just like, just get anyone through the door. Both players are good profiles for Liverpool. So that's like my biggest check mark. I've seen Mbeumo play a lot of games. Dude's pretty good. He's good for the national team as well. I think he plays for Cameroon. Yeah. He's very young. He doesn't look like he's young, but he's only like 24. Which is kind of
he's just about 24. Man looks like he's 30.
30 because he's going bald. But I think Mbeumo was a great signing.
That's all we need. We didn't have trauma. That's what we
Yeah.
need. We need
We need
the
the
ones
trauma.
that get so stressed that they've lost. The ones that get so stressed that they've lost their hair. That's what we
Yeah.
need. Trauma winners.
Whenever he's played against us, he's always like a hard worker. He's always running. He's
Mhm.
always like wreaking havoc. I like those type of players. He does seem like an Edward signing, like you said. So for me, Gordon doesn't matter. What doesn't matter? Just get someone through the door. The season's about to start. What is it? On the 16th? Is it 16th of this month?
17th. Season starts the
17th.
17th.
Sorry, 15 days? Please just sign someone at this point, but great players, so I'm good with both of them.
Cool. Hassan, are you of a similar opinion as Menti with both Anthony Gordon and Brian Mbuemo? Do you feel that there's better options for cheaper? Because I think Mbuemo is a little bit of a dark horse myself, personally.
Yeah, I agree. And as you mentioned, that he was crucial for Brentford because of Tony's suspension. He played really well. He carried them. I think he's all action. He's fast, and he's really clever. And I agree with you also that he's a Edward type of signing. So there are really good signs, but the links just emerged and fizzled out. I don't know what happened, but he looks like a player that we can go for.
Yeah, and nobody denied it either, which was very evident, because anything that comes out, and if we're not doing it, you'll have bad news Pierce or bad news David Lynch come out and immediately scupper it and immediately sink it, which they didn't do about Mbuemo, and Mbuemo was linked by some semi-reputable places. So it could be something that sort of sat under the radar. Nobody has a clue about it, but that's one thing to look at. Willem, we are now going to move on to your CDM option, which may surprise a couple of people. It'll definitely, if Paul Lindo is watching in the comments, would absolutely have been ecstatic by this choice. And that is David Hanko from Feyenoord. And Willem, hilariously, almost meets the same type of profile as Lukeba, funnily enough, when you look at it like that. So give me a reason why this was your cheaper option sort of goal. We've already talked about Lukeba, who was your other option. So give me your thoughts on this option now.
I think he would be a really good option for us, more in the sense of he's not too far over the age threshold that we kind of put, because now apparently we're going a bit of a Chelsea route of 24 and under. He's 26. He's not bad. We can get a good solid 5-6 years out of him. I reckon a deal for about 35 million euros could probably get it done if you negotiate it well with Feyenoord. I don't realistically, if I really look at it, it is most likely not happening. But I think he would be a really good fit as well for just what we're looking for. Well, on the financial side, what we're looking for, it won't be too expensive. I think he, like, from the last season, he's had to stand in a lot as a left back as well in slot system. And he's actually played for Slovakia both at left back and at centre back. And even anyone who watched England through the whole thing, they can tell Slovakia were really tough to score against until the last Hail Mary from Bellingham and a free kick from Kane coming in once their whole back line was depleted, physically at least. Like I really think he would be a really good addition for us. He knows slot. He knows how he needs to play for him. He knows what he wants for him. I think he'd be excited to go on the challenge. I think he would accept it with both hands, especially being a Slovakian player who don't really get a lot of opportunities to come and play these big clubs. I think that's something that for these certain type of players, you have to factor that in as well. It's also the pride for them that they are one of those bigger names from that country breaking through. That does also play a factor. And I every time I've watched him, I just think he's really solid as well. Throughout the Euros, he was extremely solid. I remember him getting 3 goal line clearances and literally throwing himself in front of the ball. I love that automatically. That gets bonus points for me. So yeah, I just think he would be a really good option. Do I think we'll sign him? No, probably not. But I just think he would be really good.
I think it's a little bit more unlikely after Mats Wiefer left that Feyenoord don't need money now, so to speak, because they got 40 million. They got 40 million euro for Wiefer. So
it's an Eredivisie club, though, mate. I don't. At the same time, they are very. If they get a good amount of money, they all the players that are playing now at Feyenoord have been signed for at the most of a fee of about £7 to £10 million. that's about the maximum amount of fees they get in. They also do the same where they look at prospects from other different lower leagues and they really try and sign the talent from there. So I think at the same time that wouldn't necessarily be too much of an issue. It's more the timing of it. If we take too long with it,
Madrid were bidding about €40 million and Feyenoord rejected it. So that's where my thought process comes from it.
Yeah, no, I don't know if it was. I thought from what I saw, it was 28 million euros, not 40. But I'm not sure at the same time.
I can't pull it up myself either, so I haven't a clue.
I read about 50 different tweets every day where one says one price and the other says the other price, so I can't keep up with it anymore. So
nor can I.
It's one of them. I realistically, do I think it will happen? No, I think it would also depend on the fact that if the final will probably, if he gets moved, they will want to move him in the next 2 weeks. They won't want it lasting longer than the 15th of August, because that is one thing that is very much the case with Eredivisie clubs. If you want to get him, you get him, and you make sure that, but at the absolute latest, you get it by the first game that the Eredivisie kicks off. And if not, you get the situation where it's like with Anthony, where you wait too long and then you pay £85 million for an absolute dross player.
Well, that's just United as well at the same time. Second day ring up, it adds another 40 million to the.
That's the demands that they will get to in the Eredivisie if you want to go for it that late. So I think that's more almost something that plays more of a factor with it, instead of it being like, oh, it's not that final, don't need the money. They'll probably still take the money anyways. That's not much of the issue.
Yeah. Menti, yes, no, in relation to David Hanko, very similar to the player that you picked in a profile-wise anyway. Now, obviously, one's playing in the Bundesliga, one's playing in the Eredivisie, but similar return on numbers with their duels, carrying. They seem to be very sort of progressive players, as you seem to have liked. Would you have been angry at this signing rather than Lukeba, or would you still have rather Lukeba?
I still want Lukeba, but honestly, at this point, I don't mind him either. Good arguments. Seem like it's like a Liverpool type player. I mean, he has a repertoire with the coach, so it's not like a bad decision. But I tend to not like when coaches pick someone up from their old squad. But if Edwards and Hughes think it's right, I'm all for it. Get it over the line.
Perfect. Hassan, same opinion with yourself. Would you consider Hanko a cheaper, similar option to Lukeba or any of the other centre backs that we've mentioned so far?
Yep. I really thought that he was off to Atletico. He's still around. I think he's a really good option. As William mentioned, that he was really solid at the Euros, and the plus point is always that the coach knows him. He played for him, and he knows the system as well. He knows his demands. So I think this signing will make sense.
Yeah, it does. That's who the panel have picked, and now let's see who I've picked and how badly I've gotten it wrong. We've gone through all of my centre back options, so what we'll do is we will start with the winger option, and nobody's going to have a fucking clue who this guy is. So that is Daniel Osorio, who plays in the Danish First Division. Yeah, that's how far I've delved into this. Plays in the Danish First Division for Midtjylland. Which is, I think, or Midtjylland, something like that, how you pronounce it. I'm sure somebody would correct me in the comments. If Jonathan was on the stream with us, I think he'd absolutely kill me for butchering the Nordic pronunciations like that. But this is a guy who's 20 years old, playing in the Danish First Division. For me, screams Michael Edwards laptop signing. Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes laptop signing. Seems to hit all of the right numbers. I've watched a couple of things about him. Myself, obviously, you can only do so much when it comes to your YouTube videos and everything like that. I don't think I'm going to get many opinions from my panel mates on this one, because I don't think any of them have a clue who this is. I think Willem, myself, and you had a 3-minute conversation about him before, and I think that's probably about the height of it. But this just screams Michael Edwards signing. He's young. He's going to become 21 very soon. Seems to be a very good progressor of the ball, but again, you need to look at it from a fully contextual point of view when you're taking someone from the Danish First Division to the Premier League. So that might be a bit of a stickler. But we have a habit of taking diamonds in the rough and making them absolute stars. Menti, I'll start with yourself. Have you heard of him? Have you watched him? Have you seen any of him? Based on what you see in front of you, would this be a signing you would consider, and he'd be probably less than £10 million?
I think I've seen highlights of this kid. Isn't he from Copa? What national team is he from?
Yeah, he's a Chilean player.
Yeah, I've seen some highlights. I'm not gonna lie, he's pretty good from the highlights. Very young, but it can't be like an Edward type of signing. But from the videos I've seen, I'm not gonna lie, it looked like he's kind of nice for his age. Were we ever tied him? I think it was like a couple months ago. His name popped up.
His name popped up very, very briefly. Again, wasn't shot down by anybody of note, and then just died. Similar to Mbeumo, a similar situation. Willem, me and you had about a 3-minute discussion on him before. Yes, no. Would you agree with my assessment on this?
I honestly, it's the same answer from 4 months ago, mate. I don't know. I haven't even seen a highlight from him, mate. I have seen absolutely nothing. I know the name. I know where he plays. And that's literally it. And I know he's 20 or 21. So I find it almost unfair to give my opinion on him because I just genuinely don't know. So
that's fair. See,
that's all I'm really going to say on it. That's it. I don't know. So no, I'd rather get something Premier League proven like Mbeumo Kudus than that.
No, if it was Mbeumo myself, I'd not be angry with it. But to me, I'd just try to throw a curveball in here because it looks like a Michael Edwards kind of a signing. But yeah, and Centeno, if we want to buy South Americans and they know they all want to go to Spain, that's fine. We sign him for £10 million. All of a sudden, we sell him for 80, and now we're sitting on £70 million profit. It's the way it works, baby. And if Barca or Real Madrid want to pay that for them, I have absolutely no problem. Hassan, have you watched any of this kid? He was very good in Copa America. He played very well for Chile when they were playing. Seems to be, just from my review of him, seems to be a very good ball carrier, very good on the dribble, can beat his man off the dribble. He's very quick first step. He could be the Chilean Kudus and could cost 10% of the price. What do you think?
Well, to be honest, I've not seen him, but I think as you mentioned, it makes sense. Edward type of signing. Just for me, with Konsa really young and the injury problems of Konate, can we afford to take a risk like him? This is the only thing, and there's a Liverpool versus Newcastle match, and I'm seeing Anthony Gordon is getting pelters from our fans. I don't remember the last time any player which we hated so much.
Jesus, who would it have been? The last person we signed directly from Everton that would have done anything for us at all was an academy player called Jamie Carragher. That was it. I don't think we've signed anybody of note since, and we haven't signed a player directly from Everton.
Xavier.
That was like the early 2000s, man. We haven't signed anybody directly from Everton in about 22 years, which is nuts. Which is why I never thought like the likes of going for Onana as much as people wanted that. I couldn't see that happen because just the second they see a Merseyside phone number ringing up, they're going to throw 30 million on top of the asking price. That's just, why wouldn't they, like, just to fuck with us, like. But I'm going to move on to my CDM options. Again, one of which was very recently mentioned, and another one has been mentioned an awful lot this summer. And that would be Morten Frendrup, who plays CDM for Genoa. He's here in the blue. We then have Ederson, who plays for Atalanta, who soundly beat us in the Europa League last season. He is in the sort of greeny colour here. Now we've Endo in the background in the red there. Personally, for myself, I would much prefer Morten Frendrup, purely because he seems to be that defender that could sit beside a McAllister, similarly to how you have with Real Sociedad and Zubimendi and Marino, that one is the bruiser, defender, can just do the dirty work, runs, is the piano carrier and not the piano player. And then you have then a McAllister on top of it that would then be the distributor. Now, you need to look at it as well from a point of view of the key passes, progressive passes, forward passes, and carrying and stuff like that. Genoa only had 40% possession on average throughout their entire season last season, which is why his numbers on that side of it are very, very low. We had 20% more possession on average throughout the season compared to them. So you can expect those numbers to go up while having more of the ball. His carrying, his passing, his progressive passing, those numbers would all skyrocket with that. Then you have Ederson, bit more of a rounded player playing in the same league. he clearly seems to fit the mold of Endo a bit more on his key passing. His carrying is a little bit better. His progressive passing is on par. His duels and his defensive actions are on par again. Similar in a situation, we had about 10% more possession than Atalanta on an average. But the only crux of it would be is Atalanta really don't want to lose both of their CDMs. And that would be Teun Koopmeiners and Ederson in the one window. And Koopmeiners seems to be going to Juventus. So that kind of opens up the door to Morten Frendrup. But I'll throw it out to the floor. Menti, yes, no, based on both of these. You've obviously seen Ederson against us. He's very, very good. You've seen him throughout the season with Atalanta. Frendrup might be a little bit of a more of a wild card call if you haven't watched much of him, but very, very solid defender, as you can see there with the numbers anyway. And as well, he does pass the eye test. I can attest to that myself as well. But give me a couple of your thoughts on it, and we'll round out this sort of review on some players to finish off the stream.
For me, I know a lot of Liverpool fans I see on Twitter that they like Ederson, but I mean, I don't feel like he's more natural six than Zubimendi. I'm pretty sure he didn't even play more defensive games than Zubimendi this year. He's versatile. He could play all the positions in midfield. Very good. Honestly, I wouldn't mind him on Liverpool, but that just won't be my first choice. What's that, Ferdinand Duke, whatever? I'd rather go for that guy than Ederson.
Yeah, Morten Frendrup. And something, Willem, that's actually very interesting in regards to the Ederson side of things. Atalanta are reportedly interested in Tyler Morton. Could a deal be done there, or do you feel like, obviously, with Koopmeiners going to Juventus, that they'll be a little bit more hesitant to let him go, and we should possibly pivot more to somebody else that we've mentioned, maybe Frendrup, maybe Wharton, maybe somebody else that we mentioned, Zubimendi. What do you think?
I mean, I think Atalanta have been kind of doing the same thing as Sociedad have been doing already, where they've also been in negotiations with a couple of midfielders as well. So I do think they are anticipating on the fact that they might lose both.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, I expected the Koopmeiners deal to be done about 3 weeks ago, to be fair, and that's still dragging out the entire time. So, and that could also favor us. But I at this point, I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'll take any of them. I'll take Frendrup. I'll take Ederson. I'll take Zubimendi. I'll take Wharton. I'd rather prefer Wharton or Zubimendi. I'm not gonna lie, but we just need one more. We need one more DM. That's just kind of it. And the thing is as well with Frendrup, Frendrup has good potential, but again, is it the profile that kind of slot ones? Because I think one thing now that has become a bit more clear for me from the past 2 weeks is that I think we as fans are looking at one very specific type of profile for a six that we want, but Slot is actually not necessarily looking for that profile that we all want. We just kind of want a direct replacement for Fabinho who can ping a good pass and literally just be in between everything. Whereas it's obviously the defensive side is also important for Slot, but I think it's also got more of an emphasis on how they are on the ball, and that will play a bigger factor. And I think that kind of would probably eliminate Frendrup, but again,
probably
I'm not
would.
sure.
Yeah, it's the way that I look at it is because obviously Genoa have such less possession than us. Those numbers are naturally going to go up anyway. It's more so not looking at how little he does, but what he does in that little sample, and is how he's progressive. Did he pick out the right path? Did he make the right decision? Because if he does that, then his numbers are going to skyrocket with us anyway. If he's making the right decision with the ball and carrying the ball at the right times and making the right key passes, then those numbers will just skyrocket in the team that has more possession, essentially, is my thinking of it. Now, again, I don't have a master's in physics. I'm not sat here with Michael Edwards' laptop in front of me. This is the best we can kind of do, I suppose. But Hassan, Ederson, Frendrup, do you feel like there's somebody else that we could go for in the CDM role? You obviously mentioned your choices. Has anybody sort of tilted you one side or the other with the discussion so far?
For CDM, I think my choice, Burton. I think two of you also agreed. With centre back, I like the option of Hanko as well. In these, I think I just check out the heights of them. Frendrup is just 5'9", Ederson is 6. So I think, and the stats of Ederson are, I think, better as well. Who's this?
This is somebody that's just got mentioned in the chat there by Robert. Angelo Stiller. I'm going to remove everybody other than Endo for him. And I think somebody in the chat is Michael Edwards, because that
That's good.
looks quite similar to what Willem was just pointing out, in that seems need to be better on the ball, make those progressive passes. I mean, the last CDM that we got from Stuttgart wasn't all too bad at all, considering he's up there on that graph too. So it's an interesting one, Robert. Robert's the one that mentioned it. I just want to point that out.
Do you reckon we just swap him back out? Do you reckon we just call up
Yeah.
Stuttgart and go, do you want Endo back? And we'll take
Yeah, do you want Endo back? And we'll take him off your hands and we'll throw another couple of million on top of it.
Yeah,
That
just
kind
give
of
him
way.
extra like 5 or 10 million euros and that's it.
And we can
I
I
think
think
they
he
need
hasn't
more than
played
that,
enough
considering they're now in Champions League.
Stifler as well.
The issue. Like Stuttgart got Champions League because Guirassy went off and scored 30 goals in the Bundesliga last season. That's why they got Champions League now. They're up in Europe, which is nuts. And Guirassy then just left, scored 30 and dipped and went over to Dortmund then after that. But Robert, thank you for that. I think you've solved our CDM problem, because that one quite literally ticks the boxes that Willem was mentioning. But guys, we are going to leave it there, and we're going to bring back everybody. I'm going to stop sharing screen, and now look at all our handsome faces. Isn't this great? I want to thank everybody so much for joining us this evening. It went a little bit longer than normal, but I'm sure nobody minds that. We've over 6,000 people here watching us across Twitter and YouTube, so I hope everybody enjoyed. If you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure your notifications are on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. We will have content throughout the Premier League season, as that's starting now in about 2 weeks' time. We will also be running a FPL for fans this season as well as ourselves. So it's free to enter. Don't got to pay anything to enter. We won't ask for your credit card details if anybody does. It's not us. So don't worry about that. The winner of that league at the end of the season will get a prize that's to be determined as of yet. So there can't be any cheating. You know, if you finish first, you finish first. And obviously, you'll have to respond within a certain amount of hours. Terms and conditions and everything like that will be mentioned later on. If you're all watching on Twitter currently at the moment, jump over to our YouTube page. You get access to all of the content that we make. We do expert analysis. We do player analysis. We've done reviews on slots, tactics, and stuff like that. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're there as well. But thank you guys so much for joining us on this Friday evening to start the weekend. We play against Manchester United, I believe, Sunday.
Yeah, kind of like tomorrow. If you go out to the pub and you come home at about 12 o'clock, you got half an hour to prepare.
Yeah. Basically,
Right.
it. So go out tomorrow night, couple of pints, have them on us. That kind of a way. We won't pay them, but have them on us. Have one for us, and land home at 1 o'clock with a kebab, or 12 o'clock with a kebab, and sit in and watch us absolutely pump United, where they spent 70 million euro on a centre back who's now going to miss 3 months after playing 30 minutes. So wouldn't want to be them. But yeah, Argentina are currently losing in the men's Olympics as well. France is currently beating them 1-0, so that's very interesting too. Guys, we're going to leave it there. We're on nearly an hour and 15 at this moment. I am dying hungry and I want to go and eat my burrito. So we will see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and bye-bye.